Hello, friends. Jill here, and welcome to our Wisdom Talk. Still trying to figure out a name for our show. If you guys have any ideas, please feel free to message us and give us ideas because we don't have any. But I'm sure we will figure it out. But happy Friday to you all. I am sitting on my couch right now with the Christmas tree and candles lit. And I don't know if anybody else is into this, but I am so into the fake Yule logs that you can find on YouTube or literally anywhere that is just like a fire burning and it has like a crackly sound. So it just makes it feel more cozy out here in California in our 60-degree weather, our 60-degree winter. But I love specifically the one from Disney Plus because it's the Arendelle Yule log, and it's basically from Frozen, and it's so cute because Olaf runs in like every half an hour. So we are just enjoying our fake fire here in our California winter of 63 degrees.
Hey, it's actually cold today. It's like 56.
Okay, yeah, it is a little bit colder. But anyway, say hi, baby.
Hello, baby. And hello, everybody else.
Oh my gosh, you're so cute. So today we thought we would talk about how you handle imposter syndrome, and that we've both been on a journey with imposter syndrome, and it's been different and just crazy how it sneaks up on you and you don't even know it. So I thought if you want, you could tell your story or your experience with imposter syndrome, and then I can tell mine.
Yeah, I struggled with this really, really early on, but I was actually really lucky to have someone kind of like paint the perspective for me really early on so that I didn't get into this habit of, because I know a lot of people, like, it goes on for years. And so then it becomes this like huge thing where it's like, but I was really lucky in that, like, very early on, it was actually in sports, like in high school, I had a coach say, like, because we went to a D5 school, like it was a really small school. So, like, obviously there's bigger schools, like way better players, like we're like bottom of the totem pole, right? Like, I think we had a graduating class of like 24 people. So just to give you like perspective. And so he's like, hey, he's like, Michael, there's always going to be someone who's further along, who's better. He's like, but that's not a reason that you should get upset about it. He's like, you should look at it from a positive perspective. And then he just started to list, like, well, you could go up and ask that person, like, how did you get like as good? And he was, this is all in basketball. So, like, how did you get so good? Like, how is your footwork so good? Like, how did you get a scholarship to that school? Like, he said, instead of like looking at it from a, like, I don't have that, or like a jealous standpoint, it's like, look at it as like it's possibility. Because everyone's like, oh, that's impossible. You're always told what's impossible, but you're seeing possible right in front of your eyes. And so then the next step is like, well, go seek out the possible, just like you would a mentor in business. It's like, if you see, it's almost like imposter syndrome is like you recognizing somebody that's somewhere you want to be, and like that's like a flag for mentorship almost. But we look at it in a negative way, because if we looked at it in a positive way, we just realize that that's someone who should probably mentor us because we're jealous of what they have, which means that on some level, like, that's the path we're going towards. So that's kind of how I've always looked at it. So, like, yeah, I'll see people who are more successful and I'll be like, damn, like, when's it going to be mine? But like, it's really quickly, bless you, it's really quickly replaced by, well, I should just DM that person on Instagram and ask them, like, what they're doing that's working so well. So mine really only lasts for like a millisecond, and then it goes more into, okay, well, how can I turn this feeling into like a learning, or how can I like get closer to what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to achieve?
That's really good. I'd say for me, the most imposter syndrome I've ever felt was this year. I've felt like little tiny waves of it here and there, but this year was the first year that I actually felt it. And I think it was because we were starting to speak on stages more and actually be asked to speak at conferences and do private teachings. And I was definitely feeling like, and I'm sure a lot of people have felt this, like, why would anybody want to talk to me? Like, do they not see like all the times that I have failed or messed up or screwed up? But I think it's just important to remember that we all, you're not perfect. Like, no one is perfect. You're always going to fail at something sometime. But yeah, that's where I really struggled this year was because we spoke on stage for the first time together. And I was like, oh my God, this is a huge dream. We finally got to see it come true. but I was like, why would anybody want to listen to us? Was the feeling that I was feeling. And for me, how I was able to kind of talk myself out of the times that I felt imposter syndrome was to look at things that are true and are fact. So I can look at like our social media following and be like, yeah, we built that with like our blood, sweat, and tears. Like for 2 years, we were consistent. We built that. And, you know, we built our TikTok. Like we did something crazy, like 6 TikToks a day in the beginning. So that's one thing that's really helped me is like looking at like real tangible results that we have from hard work that we've done. Mm-hmm. And just knowing that like, that's the proof that like I need to be like, Jill, come on, you can give yourself a little bit more credit here.
Don't worry. Also, too, I never understood this saying, but no blood was involved in the making of our dreams. I mean, unless we like stubbed our. It's always weird when, because like that's why I laughed when you said blood, sweat, and tears. I was like, yeah, we gave blood for this. I was like, here, I'm gonna give you my.
God, you just took it to such a morbid level.
But I always think that that's funny. But no, it is funny because so when Jill, so mine isn't really imposter syndrome. It's more of like, okay, here's the, so when that event she was talking about where we went and spoke, so we spoke on stage and the person who was the, I don't know if they were like the headliner, but one of the main people speaking was Stedman Graham. And if anybody knows who Stedman Graham is, like, dudes wrote so many books, New York Times bestseller, Oprah, and everything. Like and so like Jill tells me, right, and I'm like, I don't go to imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh come on, like what? I was like, oh my goodness. So that was just kind of, but it was interesting. It wasn't necessarily so much imposter syndrome. It was more just like, all right, this is like this is it kind of thing, you know? And I was a little bit nervous, but like it was you and me, so.
So break that down a little bit more. Did you feel pressure? Did you feel intimidation?
No, it was more just like, I'm really glad you didn't tell me this before like a week ago. Well, because you might get a little nervous, you know? Like imagine you go and someone asks you to speak at maybe like something and you're thinking like, oh, it's just me, like they haven't said anything, and then all of a sudden you find like someone who's like a New York Times bestseller or something is going to speak after you. You're like going on for the Beatles, like, you know, like, and you find out when you get there. And we had gotten in at 3 a.m. We were like tired, and I was like, man, it's like, all right, let's do it.
Well, thank goodness, like we didn't have to really. Well, he was like the main event 2 days later. We were just like the opener, and we literally were one of the first ones to speak. So hey, yeah, it was.
Sometimes the appetizers are better than the entrees, ladies and gentlemen.
That is very true. That is absolutely true. But I wanted to read you guys, if you guys are going through this as well, sort of like how you can kind of talk yourself out of it. And I'm sorry, I got confused for a second. These are more yours. You should probably break these down. But personally, that's what I do is I look at like the proof, like what is happening in my life that is an argument against the imposter syndrome. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, because our minds can play tricks on us and they can say things like, yeah, that are mean. And I mean, really, like it's really hard to say, but like I'm trying to think of a good way to say it. Like there's always going to be somebody further along than you, most likely, unless like for some reason you are that dude. And if you're that dude, hello,
props to you.
Props to you, man. Way to make it to the top of the mountain. But so there's always going to be somebody, but I think that those are great people to. Oh, Tom's on. I think that those are great people to learn from. I'm about to bring someone on right now who is someone we learn from on TikTok all the time. He is a rock. His whole family's rock stars on TikTok. Tom, what's up?
Hey, I haven't been on this app in a while, and I don't know why I just felt called to because A, it's you two, my favorite two couple, and B, this topic is so powerful.
Yeah, we it's funny because our most quote unquote successful year in business, and we've both felt imposter syndrome this year, the most out of any year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and there's a C. Can I share a C?
Yeah.
I need to talk to you guys about your services. I know I've been saying that a little while and not following through, but I want to connect with you guys before the new year if you guys can sneak me into your schedule.
Yeah, well, Tom, we'll push aside our schedule for you. Anybody who was on the schedule has now been pushed off. If you're listening
on.
and you were on that schedule, sorry.
That is so funny.
Yes, Tom, absolutely. But can you speak to that a little bit? I know you guys like have built something so massive. I mean, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And like, if you have, like, how did you really navigate past it?
Yeah, it's so funny. Building something big is unbelievably relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I did a video of my before and after, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so out of shape. But everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're like in great shape. I'm like, it's so relative, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then because there's so many other people, like at my level, all I could see is the next level, and I'm thinking, and again, it's so easy to think we're not where Grant Cardone is, and he's definitely older than me, but there's people my age that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and looking back, and you could easily say, oh my gosh, if I would have just done this differently and if I would have understood this and been better here, it's like we could be so further ahead. So I think it's never ending if you're in that kind of mindset, but that's where we definitely should not be, right? So there's two things I'd love to share about imposter syndrome, though, that really makes me think about it. Is imposter syndrome comes from two different places. The first is, and this is just from, I'm going to say this from my perspective, no one else but from ego. Like for me, when I came onto the Clubhouse app or this kind of social app, I did have imposter syndrome, but it was my ego. And I realized that because I jumped into these big rooms with Grant Cardone and this guy named JT and all these people that were making a lot more money than me, right? And we do really well, but they're making a lot, I mean, like 10, 20, 100x multiplier, in success in life and, branding and all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking, and I caught myself trying to speak bigger and be bigger than I really was and trying to perform and trying to just not be who I really was, just being an imposter. So if you have imposter syndrome, A, it could come from ego, or B, the flip side of that, if that's not your thing, it could come from just being, fearful of not practicing enough. So the other thing I said, okay, I'm just going to be transparent. I'm not going to try to be people that are bigger than me, and I'm not gonna worry about where I'm at. I'm just gonna be doing the best that I can and just learning that it's okay to make mistakes on these apps. And what's crazy, when I let go of the ego a little bit and I just said, I'm just gonna tell people where I'm at and just have fun and not worry about it and give value when I can give value. And if I don't think I can give really good value on a topic, I shut the blank up, right? I just shut up and listen and learn, because there's so many people that jump on apps in general that try to like act like they have the answer for everything, and I just didn't want to be that person anymore. I just wanted to just give advice. So but what's really cool about that is by practicing over and over and over, you get really comfortable. So the imposter syndrome that's based on the fear part of it goes away because you start to get really comfortable and confident in whatever you're trying to get better at. So but yeah, this is such a deep topic.
Oh, I love that because that talks about my exact process when we got on Clubhouse too. Was we got on those stages and everyone was super successful, and so we felt like we almost had to, like you said, you kind of make yourself sound a little bit bigger, and talk about like that process because you said like it takes practice. Like how do you get to that point where when you get into rooms and you get into stages like that, and there are those powerhouses like the Cardones and the Foxes speaking, how do you just sit there and be okay with, hey, I don't know everything, I'm going to listen, like you said, if I don't know anything I'm just going to pipe down? How do you get to that place
Get to the place where you're given value in those rooms.
where you're comfortable being in those settings and you don't feel like you have to, yeah, you're not intimidated, you don't feel like you have to give this sort of bravado, you're kind of comfortable in your own skin?
Yeah. Well, first, for me, I'm a little different than what I hear a lot of people. Sometimes when there are a lot of really successful people that are ultra more successful in a specific topic than me, then I do take the role of mentor or mentee. Like I will, like if I'm in a room with Grant or someone like that, I'm more asking questions, complimenting, edifying, listening, learning. And then, of course, if there's a very specific topic that's a real simple no brainer that I can give some value on, I might jump in for a quick second, but then jump right off real quick and flip it back to Grant or flip it back because I'm in a place right now where I want to learn. And if I don't have to pay someone like a Grant, because Grant charges 100 grand, I heard, for a few hours of his time, but we get him for free, or people like that, like John Laguerre and other people, then different topics and different niches that I get to learn from, like people like you two, right? I know you guys charge great money for the kind of quality and the value that you give when it comes to helping people build their brand and their social platforms, right? And we get to ask you a lot of questions for free. So that's what I do is when I'm in a really big room with really successful people, I'll just take a back seat and just know my time and just be patient. And then I'll jump into smaller rooms and give a lot more value where I do feel like I have some experience in that area.
I think that's why I love these apps so much, is because, like you said, so many of the people that come on the apps, like Grant Carr, I can only imagine how much people like that would charge. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name, but he was on the board for the San Francisco Niners. Like all these people who would charge just exorbitant amounts of money if you wanted time with them. You have access to ask any question. So I guess because we've been on those stages, I think it's kind of like we sort of take it for granted because we're so comfortable now on those stages. So we just pop in, and we're very comfortable. But a lot of people still get that kind of like intimidation from those big stages, those big names. So if people are looking to like ask those types of people those questions, get on those stages, what are some tips you'd give them?
Oh man, have like Kevin Hart takes 3 years before he figures out an all-star lineup of all his jokes. He'll go to dive bars just to figure out. He'll do 10 jokes, realize that only one works, go to the next dive bar. Now he has one that works. Now he picks up another one. And it takes him 2 to 3 years to get a whole lineup of jokes that are one right after the other smash hits. So when you go on those stages, why not be like Kevin Hart and put together smashing, amazing questions that are well thought through? Hey, Grant, hey, real quick question for you. If you boom, 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 and speak clear, concise, short, to the point, and not a whole bunch of talk about yourself, boom, and mic drop it. And then people are like, oh, damn, great question. Graham, that person spoke well and clear and didn't make it about him. Because a lot of people, real quick, they'll jump on those stages and they'll talk about themselves so long. I'm like, do you know this guy's worth $1 billion? And I go, it's not about the money only, but the success. I want to learn from him and not hear your story as an example. So, and it makes people look bad. So that's what I would say is just get really concise about what you're going to do. And real quick, one more thing. I might be rambling right now, so it's proving the opposite. But make every speech like a keynote, like unless it's impromptu, like right now. And I mean, I didn't plan it, but if you can, like when you are speaking about a topic, my goal is to treat it like I'm on a TED talk, or treat it like I'm actually getting paid to go on stage, and I got like 30 seconds or 30 minutes or whatever it may be to give that keynote kind of a speech and make the quality of what you say better, or the question of what you say better, and also the connection and the time to build the relationships with people like you two. The connections behind the scenes is a whole nother part of today's world of building that brand, is building those connections behind the scenes. In fact, I'll say it's maybe even faster to build those connections behind the scenes, is even better than the kind of content and quality of content you produce.
Yes, I totally agree. And yeah, it's so funny because from the social media show, we went to Denver and we met everybody. And so it's just cool to like build the relationships and then take them offline, like you said. So I got a minute left. And since it's like close to the new year and you guys are always traveling, always doing cool shit, excuse my language, what are you the most excited about for the end of this year and going into 2022 for your family, for your business, really anything?
Oh my gosh. So we've just such a God thing, but we have a mentor, a real high level entrepreneur that just got a jet, right? They got a jet, and I can't mention the. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention their name right now, but people we're becoming friends with, like just learning from. But it's kind of cool that we get to do a mastermind where we're just going skiing, and where we're going Park City. So for the rest of the year, in about a week or so, we're going to be going to Park City on their jet and hanging out and just doing life with them and learning from them, kind of behind the scenes. So kind of a private mastermind is what
Oh,
we're doing for the new year.
well, thanks, Tom, so much for coming up and chatting with us. We'll have to grab Kim in here as well, too, and have a fireside chat, all four of us, about marriage.
Yes. Hey, no, I'm serious. If you guys are available later today, let us know. If like you 10, 15 minutes, Kim and I would love to chat with you guys about your services.
Yeah, definitely. Let me I'll send you a message on Instagram right now. I just realized there's and
Yeah.
I'm looking for my phone.
But yeah, no, that's really important to remember too. I think that when it comes to imposter syndrome, it's just important to remember that we all have experiences that have brought us to where we are now, and we could all speak on something. We all can speak about something, but we can also all of us learn something. So what he said is totally relevant. When you're in spaces or social media platforms or rooms where there are very successful people speaking that are in your line of work or in your business, it is super important to to just like glean from them and be a forever student is something that Michael and I take very seriously. We're always learning something, whether it's related to what we do in business or personal growth or marriage or faith or spirituality, whatever. We're always learning, we're always growing because I love I hate that myth that like your brain stops growing or developing after the age of 25 when you can still be learning new things, you can still be developing, and you should, because that keeps your mind sharp. But anyway, I digress. With imposter syndrome, just know that you have experience in your own right for, and whatever's gone on in your life, and you do have things to speak about, but you also have things to learn as well. But I think it's funny because a lot of times you don't realize that imposter syndrome has snuck its way into your brain, and it's usually that feeling of not good enough, or I don't deserve to be here, why would anyone want to listen to me? If you've had any things like that, any thoughts like that sneak into your brain, those are definitely some signs of imposter syndrome. But one thing Michael wrote down here that I think is really smart and really important to remember is they're on their journey and I'm on mine. That was something we definitely had to learn early on in business, because imposter syndrome will also make you compare and be like, why are they there and I'm not? And the thing is, we all have our own journeys. We all have our own life. We all have our own story. Well, we all have our own unique set of experiences that we grew up with family, with friends, and institutions. And we're here because of that journey.
Yeah, and I think when you wish for someone else's journey, you're robbing yourself of your own individual, unique journey, which is going to be really cool. And I mean, we all like praise individualness and uniqueness, and so I think really just remembering that your journey is part of, and it builds your uniqueness because it builds you into who you are. And so if you had someone else's journey, you're just going to be a carbon copy of them, and nobody wants a carbon copy. Everybody wants an original.
Very true. And I think it's important to remember when you're in that place and like you might be in the struggle. We talked about the struggle yesterday, and we put up a quote recently on one of our clients' social platforms, and it exploded because I think everybody can relate. But it's the quote that's, the best views come from the toughest climbs. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the struggle right now, just know that there is light on the other side. You just have to keep going. You have to not give up, and to find whatever help you need to help you get through it, because it's really important. I mean, we look back on our business journey, and don't get me wrong, there are some points where we both wish we had never taken that road. There was a lot of hurt there, but we look back on it and we're like, it gave us the resilience that we have today. Like, so many of the things that we're strong at are because of the experiences we've had. So I think if you're in that moment of imposter syndrome, I think it's important to take a moment and recognize how far you've come, and you do have stuff to share.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to get off my imposter syndrome soapbox.
Okay. Oh yeah, she asked me. She's like, "What does a soapbox mean?" Because
I said it in the shower the other day, and you were like, "That's wrong." No.
Yeah. Oh, she used it out of context. She was like, "Yeah, something about a soapbox." I was like, "That's not what that means."
I know what it means. You get up and you're just like preaching at people and talking
preaching to the
people.
choir.
But yeah. Anyway, like I said, we digress.
But we're gonna go back to watching our. We're gonna go back to standing in front of our fire now.
Our TV fire.
Our TV fire to stay warm. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us for this talk on imposter syndrome. If you're listening to the replay, definitely check out our YouTube channel where we've got business resources for business owners and entrepreneurs, where all these talks go as well, because we're doing 365 days of videos.
Indeed we are.
Indeed we are. What did we get ourselves into?
I don't know. It was your idea.
What did Michael
Definitely
get Jill
not
into?
My idea.
Don't worry, there's 365 days worth of knowledge in here.
Yes.
And we're going to share it all for free. So until next time, bye guys, have a great weekend, and go watch Frozen, okay?